maybe I'd have a couple of my guests here, but they downstairs at the moment. But I am glad watching this TMR Super Bowl 51 halftime. Is going to be watching. I know there's a huge in Flower Chapel on the actual campus of UVF, so I hope they're enjoying the game tonight as I'm trying to load my NFL mobile, but I've been having issues all day today with that because of the, I guess, probably high frequency of people uh, watching stuff on NFL mobile and keeping up to date with that. So that is something to be aware of. But at halftime, it is Atlanta Falcons 21, New England Patriots 3. The largest deficit that New England will have to overcome uh, if they do end up winning Super Bowl 51. But we do have some huge stellar numbers for Atlanta. Yeah, for the first 4 possessions, New England had punt, fumble, and interception for a touchdown. So, that is something to be said for Atlanta's defense, including that first possession of a 3-and-out. Because you know how Belichick. So, when you're going into a game like this, you want to have somebody experiencing and, well, not really experience as much as ready to put their nose to the grindstone and get things going for their team. And I think that's what uh, Dan Quinn, Matt Ryan, and those guys have done to prepare for this. So I'm still waiting for stats to load. Give me a moment here. NFL Mobile won't be giving me much, so let me try a different app, which might give me better luck. So, if you're watching and have any comments, please message me on Facebook private. And I'm going to get the information here. Let me break down some stats here. The Patriots, let me look at this here quickly. Brady, 16 of 26 for that one pick. Now, if only 5 fantasy points, if it had any, if fantasy points had any bearing. 184 yards. LeGarrette Blount, he has only 16 yards, and he committed that fumble, so he's actually in the negative on that side of the ball. For the rushing, receiving, we have White with 5 receptions for 55 yards. So, decent work for him, but really, the Patriots only have 3 points show for it because they haven't really been able to get into field goal range, and that first trip into red zone territory, they were picked off by Robert Alford, who actually has 3 tackles, 2 assists, and that pick for the touchdown. And Deion Jones had that forced fumble to lead to the Atlanta touch was 37 yards. Matt Ryan, 7 of 8. He's 3 of 4 from 20-plus yards. So he's throwing a solid football. He's 4 for 4 from 20 yards or under. He's got 115 yards passing with that touchdown to Hooper, which was a 19-yard touchdown reception. Julio Jones had the real big play, though, with 60 yards receiving. Uh, Mr. Jarrett has a sack. That's the thing. Brady's been sacked a couple times tonight, so that's been good. Upshaw had the other sack. Bosher, he's been putting them down pretty far, 55 yards per punt. So at the half, it is the Falcons crushing. So that is where we are looking at, and it's really looking good for Atlanta right now. We are pretty much are rooting for the Falcons. Fans are rooting for the Falcons. Ooh. Organization in rooting because just have they have a solid game working for them, and it is in their favor at this point. So it is incredible to watch right now. And right now, something other that's going to be coming on momentarily. And I think after the commercial break right now on TV, is going to be the halftime show. So that is what's good. I don't cover the actual halftime show by Lady Gaga. That's not my place. But we do know that Patriots have a lot of work that they need to do because they ain't looking so crisp. They ain't looking hot. And they're looking pretty dang cold, if you ask me. They're cold. They're cold like the New England air. Atlanta came to play, and they are showing it. And I hope that that Atlanta pulls out the Super Bowl, which would be their first in their history of a Super Bowl victory. And it's well deserving for Matt Ryan, who is the NFL MVP. Dan Quinn has done a phenomenal job, even though he wasn't named Coach of the Year. Jason Garrett actually got that for taking Cowboys from pretty much decimation, really, last season, to number one seed in the NFC, second seed, really, overall in the NFL, behind New England. So, and I believe I saw something from Michael Davis, Bubba, that Dak Prescott actually got the Rookie of the Year and not Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, well, that could have went either way though, because being both of them are on the same team could have went either way. But Dak to really come in and work with the receiving core he had, and also having the having to take over for Tony Romo, who had been the best quarterback in the regular season, statistical wise, not really a super. The problem is they've been so controversial. They've been more controversial. I don't know who's more controversial, New England Patriots or Donald Trump, but the New England Patriots, it seems like almost every year there's some sort of that they're in the Super Bowl. There's some sort of scandal that goes on that ends up being something blown out, could be blown out of proportion or just blown out like the footballs in Deflategate. But always something that it's triggered that makes people hate the Patriots more. So that's where we're looking. And I mean, we're looking at two teams who are, you're looking at an Atlanta team who's got what I call the more prolific offense at this point in the game because they have a running game. They have a stellar running game, and it's working. The Patriots don't have that running game. They rely on Brady and the passing game, but you're down one of your key tight ends in Gronkowski, and you kind of saw them being a little shaky throughout the playoffs, but really it didn't affect them too much. I think you're seeing it now, though. I think you're seeing the issues come in now because of the lack of Gronkowski. Everybody's teaming up against Edelman and Amendola, and now Hogan. Hogan has a couple targets, but I don't think he's had any huge catches. So you're seeing this all play out. This first half hasn't been that crisp Patriot game that you're used to seeing throughout the season. The Falcons are playing phenomenally, and they get the ball to start. So they could be up 28-3 by the time New England gets the ball back in the third quarter. So that's really a huge and intriguing scenario because you're looking you look at paper, you look at the odds makers, and they say, "Oh, Patriots by 3," which is good, which you expect a close game, but you kind of, I mean, you expected like the Packers to play better than they did. Like Atlanta shut them out in the first half of the championship game 2 weeks ago. They were up, I think it was 21-0, and Atlanta ended up winning that 44-21. Atlanta's up 21-3. Who says Atlanta can't do the same thing that they did to Green Bay? I mean, when you have 2 weeks to prepare for a game, you expect it to be a whole lot closer. But I think the Patriots probably came in a little too cocky, a little too, and their heads probably were a little bloated, and thought, hey, we got this. We're veterans in this. This team's a young team. They're inexperienced. But you don't count out the young and inexperienced. Actually, I know this is the Super Bowl, but let me bring out a little scripture here. Because this is this scripture is very applicable to this. As much as veteran leadership is needed, sometimes you need to have some of the young guns. Because look at some of the dynasties. Like, let me take, for instance, the New York Yankees, which is my favorite baseball team. But their dynasty years in the late 90s, 96, 98, 99, 2000. A very young squad. And that's because they brought them up through the farm system. It's not because they bought all their players. No, they brought them up through the draft, through the farm system, and that's how they got to where they are. 1 Timothy 4:12. And do not let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in life, in love, in faith, and in purity. Do not, I am skipping down to verse 14. Do not neglect your gift, which was given you through a prophetic message when the body of elders laid their hands on you. Now, verse 14 refers to, and this pretty much reflects more so preaching. Like, if I wanted to really get into a message here, it's pretty much Paul, who was Timothy's leader at the time. And Paul was Timothy's coach. And Paul was telling Timothy, hey, Tim, look, you got a talent. You can use this. And don't let people tell you you can't. Just set that example. Be that leader that you've been called to be. And everything will fall into place. I mean, Brady had that going for him. Brady was young, and he came in for an injured Drew Bledsoe, and he took over the team, and the rest is history. Brady's got 4 Super Bowls out of 6, and he's in his 7th. Is he going to win his 5th out of 7? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know yet. We still got another 30 minutes to play. But at least you cannot think you can get off scot-free because they're young and inexperienced. So, I mean, that's my little soapbox. That's a little scripture for you, because everything we do, we got to do it for the Lord, pretty much. If you don't, then it means nothing. So, well, that's going to end my Super Bowl halftime show here from the TMR studios. So, we will not have a post game here, but we will make a few comments, maybe on Facebook Live, regarding it. If it's on Facebook Live, it's probably going to be on my personal channel. On my personal page, not on the TMR page. So, if you want to keep posted on Facebook. Of course, everybody's posting about Super Bowl. It's the one game that everybody watches, as was mentioned in the UVF Weekly video. U Valley Forge, for those of you here on YouTube. We have a weekly video pretty much telling us everything. And the Patriot and the Super Bowl is pretty much the thing to watch, mostly because of there's 3 things: commercials, halftime show, or the actual game itself. So that's it from the TMR studios. Mikey.